Hi everyone, Andy and Sam here with WeTalkSports doing our NFL wrap-up of Week 6. Thanks for joining us. We're going to get right into it and talk about the Thursday night game where the Eagles visited the Giants, and one of the big surprises of the week, the Giants come away with a 34-17 victory. Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo looked electric for the Giants, who are now 2-4, and for the Eagles, things are not looking good. I think they've got a real problem with their new offensive coordinator. Can't seem to figure out how to use all of the weapons they have on offense, passing the ball, running the ball. Things are not looking good in Philadelphia, despite their 4-2 record. Feels like these teams are moving in opposite directions. Sam, what do you think about the game?
I thought the Giants looked good.
Yeah.
Cam Scadaboo looked good.
Can the Eagles figure this out and turn it around, or are they going to free fall here?
I don't know. I think it's going to take them most of the season to figure it out, and if they do figure it out.
All right. Well, let's move on to the Sunday games. We had an early morning game from London with the Denver Broncos. That's Sam's team visiting the New York Jets. I'm not sure that's really anyone's team. The Broncos win a game that feels like it set football back several years, 13-11. Amazingly, in this one, the Jets were sacked 9 times, and they had more yards lost on sacks than yards gained on passes, which can't have happened too many times in NFL history. Justin Fields looked completely lost, late on his decision-making. The play calling looks awful. At the same time, the Broncos don't look quite right either. They improved to 4-2, while the Jets dropped to an abysmal 0-6. But I think that's a little bit of a red flag for the Broncos with their 13-point effort. Sam, what do you think?
Well, the Jets did not look good. I would say every single team currently in the NFL probably has an equal chance to make the playoffs at this point, except for the Jets.
Yeah, they're 0-6 is not going to be good. There's still a few 1-5 teams out there also. We'll get to them here shortly. Let's move on to the Cardinals at Colts. And on the flip side of the teams doing terribly, the Colts are probably the surprise of the NFL at 5-1. They win this one 31-27. Another strong start for Daniel Jones. Jonathan Taylor running the ball really well. And Cardinals had to play this one without Kyler Murray. Made it more competitive than some people thought they might, but ultimately they fall 31-27 on the road to fall 2-4. Sam, anything to share there?
Well, the Colts have definitely been a surprising team this year. Did not expect them to be very good, and they have.
Yep. All right, let's move on. We've got the Chargers at Dolphins. Sam, what do you think about the Dolphins in general as a franchise?
I don't really like them, and I don't think they're good.
Yeah, Sam is a Dolphin hater. Sorry if there's any Dolphin fans out there. I don't know if they deserve any hatred. They're 1-5. Lose this game at the very end, 29-27, keeping the Chargers on track for their season. They improved to 4-2. Of interest here, the Chargers played their first game without Marion Hampton, and Kamani Vidal stepped in and crushed it. 18 carries for 124 yards. A lot of people thought Hassan Haskins would be the number one guy, but they went with Vidal. On the flip side, there was some post-game conversation from Tua on the Dolphins that made it seem like they don't have their house in order. Players missing meetings, coming late to meetings, not being held accountable. I think this may be the last legs of the Mike McDaniel era in Miami. Sam, anything to add there?
Well, both the Chargers running backs, Najee Harris is out for the season, of course, and Marion Hampton is out for at least 4 weeks, which for a run-heavy team, that's not great, but I still think that they'll be able to do decent.
All right. Let's move on. Another bit of a surprise team, I think, to some people. The Patriots go into New Orleans and win 25-19. Competitive game, but the Patriots Drake May seems to be flourishing into the franchise quarterback that they were hoping he would be. 3 touchdown passes in this game to ultimately win it 25-19, improved to 4-2, while the Saints dropped to 1-5. Anything more to add, Sam?
Well, I did predict the Patriots to get the 3rd seed in the playoffs. I predicted Drake May to do pretty good, so that's one of the teams that I did actually get my prediction right for, and I wouldn't be surprised if they make the playoffs.
All right. Let's move on to 2 divisional rivals moving in opposite directions. You had the Browns at the Steelers. Steelers win this one 23-9 to improve to 4-1, while the Browns drop to 1-5. Aaron Rodgers looks solid. Steelers are doing what the Steelers do. They're efficient on offense. They're playing good defense. Aaron Rodgers seems to be bought into the program in Pittsburgh. You don't see all of the press that he saw when he was with the Jets on all the various different shows and comments he's making that are creating headlines off the field. It just seems like the Steelers are doing what the Steelers do, and Aaron Rodgers is doing what Aaron Rodgers does. On the flip side, the Browns looked awful in this game. They had no offense at all. Dylan Gabriel did not do anything really. Joe Flacco is now in Cincinnati. Shedeur Sanders appears to be the backup quarterback, but they seem completely lifeless on offense. Sam, anything to add there?
Well, Aaron Rodgers looks pretty good with the Steelers.
He does. I didn't think he had it in him, but he's got them in the right direction. I think that was a good signing, looking back at it.
I believe he said that before the season started that this was going to be, or at least he was planning this to be his final season, but I don't know. If he makes it to the playoffs and wins the playoff game, maybe he'll decide to do it again.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know, but certainly would be a good way for him to go out if he continues to have the year that he's having. All right, let's move on to the Cowboys at Panthers, and this was the revenge game for Rico Dowdle. He had just had a huge game the week before, and he had been talking all week about wanting to get some revenge on the Cowboys, and he sure did. 239 yards from scrimmage, helped the Panthers win this one on a last-second field goal, 30-27, improving to 3-3. A bit of a surprise with Carolina. Cowboys 2-3-1 going down in this game. Sam, anything you want to add there?
Well, Rico Dowdle looks very good.
Yeah.
I don't know if he would ever start over Chuba Hubbard, or at least not for a while, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe next year he ends up on a team and becomes a starting running back again. The Cowboys' offense continues to look pretty good with George Pickens. I believe CeeDee Lamb still hurt. Javonte Williams seems like a good signing for them, and Dak Prescott is looking good.
Yeah, Dak's having a great season, helping me out on some of my fantasy teams. You know, the Panthers don't exactly have the most prolific passing game, so if you get Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard in the backfield together as a 1-2 tandem, that could really help them and be a dangerous weapon. So interesting to see how those two players go together the rest of the season, as Chuba Hubbard seems like he's close to returning from injury. All right, let's move on to the Seahawks at Jaguars. Seahawks win this one 20-12. Both teams now 4-2, which might be a bit of a surprise in this one. Sam Darnold continues to look really good at quarterback. Jaguars, despite having a really good week the previous week offensively, only 12 points in this one. Sam, what do you got to say on this game?
Well, the Seahawks continue to look very good. Sam Darnold threw a perfect deep pass to Jackson Smith and Jigba. It was just perfect, deep touchdown. And yeah,
that was an amazing thing of beauty that Sam and I watched a couple times on replay to admire it. Let's move on. We've got the Rams playing probably the most disappointing team of the season, the Ravens in Baltimore, completely lifeless. 17-3, the Rams win this one easily. Of note for the Rams is Puka Nacua, got injured in this game. Now, He's a tough guy who probably won't miss nearly as much time as you might expect, but did look like the kind of injury where he might miss some time. Ravens, what can you say? I could only sum this game up by their goal line possession. They have Derrick Henry in the backfield, who is just a beast to take down. He was having a big game, well over 100 yards, and they run two very awful attempts at the tush push. Didn't get in. Then on 4th down, ran a terrible delayed running play to Henry, giving the Rams plenty of time to get in the backfield and take him down. I don't know what happened to the Ravens coaching staff. I know they have a lot of injuries, but that is completely unacceptable. Ravens at 1-5. I don't think there's any hope they can turn the season around, even when Lamar Jackson comes back. Sam?
Well, they did not look good. I don't really know what they were doing with that tush push. I think possibly when Lamar Jackson comes back, they may be better. You know, they had C.J. Gardner-Johnson for a few games. I believe now that Kyle Hamilton's back, they released him. And yeah.
All right, moving on to the next game. You've got two teams not doing so well. The Titans and the Raiders. Somebody had to win, I suppose. They could have technically tied, but the Raiders win this one 20-10, and this turned out to be the final game of the Callahan era in Tennessee. And honestly, I'm not sure why they brought him back this year. There was evidence that he wasn't up to the task last year. Cam Ward now, midway through his first season, is already getting a head coaching switch. I will say that Mike McCoy taking over as the head coach has some really good history working with quarterbacks in the past. He's gotten some big seasons out of them, so maybe he can turn things around for Cam Ward. But boy, if you're a Tennessee Titans fan, not only are you now 1-5 after that loss, you fired your head coach, and now this week coming to town is the New England Patriots, coached by Mike Vrabel, your former coach, who many people were shocked got fired a couple of seasons ago in Tennessee and probably wish he was still there. Sam, anything you want to add about this game?
Well, the Titans, really the only players who I've seen look good pretty much is Cam Ward has looked pretty decent. Still not sure if he's living up to number 1 overall pick. Jackson Dart is definitely, I think, playing better than him, but he is still playing decent. Jeffrey Simmons on their defense looks pretty good. Elick Ailmanor, I think, will sometime soon have a good game. I'm not sure if him or Lockett are the wide receiver too there, but I haven't really seen Lockett do much, so I assume it's Ailmanor. And I also think Calvin Ridley, he's had some good weeks, he's had some bad weeks, but yeah, I think most of the Tennessee Titans needs to be replaced.
Yeah, Ridley's hurt right now, so we'll see if he plays. All right, let's move on to the next game. Interesting one. The Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Flacco at the helm for the first time this season going to Green Bay for a game. And if you remember back just a few weeks ago, Joe Flacco with the Browns actually beat the Packers in a shocking fashion, the only win of the season so far for the Browns. Could he do it twice for two different teams in the same season? The answer is no, but it was pretty close. They hung in there, and the Packers had to pull away late to win this one 27-18, improving to 3-1-1. Bengals fall to 2-4 post Joe Burrow. There were some signs of life for the Bengals. You could tell Joe Flacco was told, throw the ball to Chase, throw the ball to T. Higgins, no turnovers, and we will slowly work our way through this game. So if you're a fantasy owner of Jamar Chase or T. Higgins, there's some hope there. But ultimately, the Bengals fall 27-18 to the Packers. Sam, anything to add?
Well, Joe Flacco, I'm not really sure why they traded for him when people like Jameis Winston were around, but I think maybe he'll be able to be serviceable until Joe Burrow comes back, but I just don't see them making the playoffs. I really think this offseason, what they should, even though their defense is so horrendous, I think they should prioritize their offensive line, because even if their defense sucks, if they can get a better offensive line and stop Joe Burrow from getting hurt as much, they'll probably have more success, so I would probably prioritize that.
Yeah, I'm sure. they'd love to do that. We'll see if they can figure out how to make that work for them. All right, let's move on to the 49ers Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. This was a big win for Tampa, 30-19. They improved to 5-1. 49ers dropped to 4-2. Baker Mayfield throws for 2 touchdowns and is looking pretty good. He's I don't know, possibly early favorite for MVP, if I dare say that. Sam, anything you want to add here?
Baker Mayfield looks good. Wouldn't be surprised if he does win MVP, and yeah.
Amazingly, I mean, these look like 2 good football teams, but the 49ers have been decimated by injuries, and now Tampa, especially with the wide receiver room, really, they may have to have Sterling Shepard be the #1 receiver this week with all their guys going down with injuries, but Baker Mayfield keeps rolling regardless.
Yeah, I believe Mike Evans is still out for injury. With injury, Chris Godwin, I believe, got hurt again, and then Emeka Egbuka looks to have some sort of hamstring injury, so we'll have to see what happens there, but...
Yep. Now we go to the Lions-Chiefs. A lot of people picked this to be the possible Super Bowl this year. Despite what was a rough start to the season for the Chiefs, they win this one 30-17 to improve to 3-3, drop the Lions to 4-2, and the Chiefs look good. They look like they're Super Bowl selves. Patrick Mahomes looks good. Travis Kelce isn't peak Travis Kelce, but he is a weapon nonetheless. They're about to get Rashid Rice back, and that's going to really open up the offense for the Chiefs. So fear not, even though 3-3, the Chiefs are definitely on the up and look to be as strong as ever. Sam, anything to add there?
Well, the Chiefs, I wasn't sure if they were going to have a good season. I thought maybe both them and the Eagles were going to have. The Eagles were going to just have a bad offense all season and still probably end up doing decent. But I wasn't sure about the Chiefs doing good. But it looks like that they have returned to their Super Bowl versions. They're actually, I would say, pre-Super Bowl LIX divisional round. No, conference championships versions before their not great performance in the Super Bowl.
All right, let's move on. We had a pair of Monday night games. The first game was a bit of a shocker. The Bills, who were rolling earlier in the season, have now lost 2 in a row, falling 24-14 to the Falcons. Bijan Robinson absolutely crushed it in this game. Bills' defense and offense both struggled in this one significantly. I think they'll be able to turn it around. I'm not ready to panic yet. If you're a Bills fan, Sam and I both picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl. Not going to change that pick, but definitely some concern here. And from the Falcons' perspective, as Michael Penix gets more and more comfortable, he's getting Drake London more involved. Bijan Robinson, of course, crushing it on the ground. I haven't considered them much of a contender this year. They're now at 3-2, coming off this victory against the Bills, and you've got to pay attention to the Falcons. Sam, anything to add there?
All I have to say is Bijan Robinson is now in second place for the longest run in the history of the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, that was a big ability. All right, we're moving on to the last game of the week. This is a rematch of last year's Hail Mary loss by the Bears to the Washington Commanders. Bears win this one 25-24 on Monday night, avenging that loss. They improved to 3-2. Commanders are now 3-3. I think at the end of the day, these are 2 playoff caliber teams playing what turned out to be a really tight game. Sam, anything you want to add about this particular game?
Well, the Bears got their revenge on the Commanders after last year, and I think that, let's see. Rome Odunze did not do that great this game, but, pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, 2 first-round picks, often compared to each other. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels threw for 3 touchdowns compared to 1 for Caleb Williams, but Jaden Daniels also turned the ball over once, and Caleb Williams didn't. Caleb Williams had more total yardage. I think they're both good quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels did some more damage on the ground. I think the arrow's pointing up, and DeAndre Swift had a bit of a coming out party running the ball for the Bears, which is a good sign for them. Sam, what's your last word on the day?
The Bears brought Jake Moody up from their practice squad, and he ended up winning them the game. So let's see if he ends up becoming their full-time kicker.
Yeah, you see that sometimes. The 49ers ultimately gave up on Jake Moody, but, he was a high draft pick, and he came out and really sort of won this game for them. He is still a very solid kicker. It could be a steal of a kicker. So, good win for the Bears. Washington at 3-3 will have to regroup, but I think their arrow's pointing up. And that's it. That's all the games for this week. We'll be back again next week. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.